And in my talks and on the website, we show documentation where people are selected. He is in the right position. This is the right head teacher. And other people are rejected. One man in Ipswich is rejected because he's too Ipswich. Okay?
Well, I can understand that.
You laugh, but this is all going on out of the public eye. So what we've got is a group of individuals who could include a policeman, a council officer, a local developer, a vicar, maybe somebody from the local university. They are an advisory board for common purpose, and they are selecting in their community who is okay, who is the right material to be common purpose trained.
I understand also, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I have read that even criminals are inducted into common purpose.
Absolutely. And one
known criminals.
Known criminals.
Is that because they have some influence in the community?
Well, they certainly have major influence in it, but it depends what you think that common purpose is trying to do in society. Common purpose says that it is trying to assist society and create future leaders and educate people. But what we are finding is that where common purpose is operating, never mind what common purpose says, we're finding people who say since common purpose has been operating, things seem to be breaking down.
So do you think that's why they were trying to stop you having this effort to help young people by building
Absolutely,
this ship?
Because what is actually happening in this country is it's being taken apart. I use an expression which is, why does nothing work anymore? If you look out the window and you look at what's happening in society, nothing works. Schools, hospitals, transport, police. You must have seen it. Haven't you seen it?
Well, my opinion doesn't matter, Brian. I'm interested.
Well, I'd like to try it, see what you say.
I don't know what to compare it with.
Really?
No.
Well, I just looked back for 20 years as to what was going on in the country when probity and honesty in the public sector was generally regarded as a baseline. And now we've got the most amazing things happen, whether it's cover-ups over Dr. Kelly, or we've now got lords who are taking money and then just saying very calmly, oh, I'm terribly sorry. Something's wrong, isn't it? And I will say to you, when you look at an area of society, if we say something's wrong, is common purpose operating there? It certainly is.
So you see this common purpose spreading throughout the UK, presumably. I mean, is it everywhere now?
I don't see it, because we have proven and we can show that it's in any city.
Every city?
Every city, yeah.
And every town?
If you go to my website, which is CP Exposed, there's actually a map on there which shows the geographical distribution of common purpose.
Is that cpexposed.org, is that right? I think I've got... Oh, no, I've got you...
.com.
cpexposed.com. And you also produce this magazine, don't you, which is called...
It's a newspaper.
Newspaper. I beg your pardon, this newspaper called UK Column, which people can receive.
Absolutely. We've got a little office based in Plymouth, but that paper has now been operating for about 2 years. Group of volunteers, not just me, a lot of other people. But if you go to the website, which is ukcolumn.org, you can catch up on the real truth.
Okay, so what have we? We have a semi-secret organisation that operates across the entire country, that has as members people who have paid to go on some sort of programming course. Would you call it that, or am I putting words in your mouth?
Let's deal with the paid, because this is another little thing which common purpose plays around with. If you look at what was happening when we discovered common purpose, a matrix course cost £3,950 plus VAT. So that's quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't know how poor people are supposed to do the course. Now, what would happen is that most of the people who paid the full amount came from the public sector. So if it was a local council, they ramp up fees to common purpose of 100 grand. But somebody else, to make it appear that it's non-elitist, would be given a bursary and they might pay £800.
And then who would make the difference up? Would that be the local council then?
Usually, because common purpose, the overwhelming payment for common purpose courses comes out of the public sector. And again, on the website, we've put up the actual documents where we're showing, if we take Devon and Cornwall Police, they've racked up over £57,000 in common purpose training. But if you ask them what they get out of it, they can't tell you.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. We're going to go for a break now, Brian. So if you've got any texts you'd like to send in, send them to 87778. Put your name and where you're from. Use the word edge, a space, and then your text. And we'll see you back here very soon. Welcome back to On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers, and my special guest tonight, Brian Gerrish, who's talking about common purpose. I've got a couple of texts in. I'm just going to quickly read a couple of texts down, and then we'll get back onto the subject that we were talking about. A lady here, Linda in Birmingham, says, I've worked in the NHS for 33 years. I always knew there's been something underlying, evolving, and have said it a long time. So Linda thinks you might be right there. And here's one from Julian Martin in Telford, and they say, is it right Gordon Brown and Tony Blair have links to Common Purpose and the Fabian Society? And somebody else, Jim from Larne, that's in Ireland, I believe, Northern Ireland, is Common Purpose part of a bigger organisation?
Right, well, if I do with Blair and Gordon Brown, the answer is definitely yes, because the old Office of the Deputy Prime Minister was pushing Common Purpose very strongly. We've got documentation showing that they'd spent, I think it's £80,000 on my website, the real documentation, so it's all evidence. So we know that Common Purpose is closely connected to the highest levels of the Labour government, and we've got other documentation showing meetings at 10 Downing Street. If you go to the website, cpexposed.com, you can call up the documentation yourself.
And is it part of a bigger organisation, as Jim asked?
I believe it is. I've used the word believe because I can't give you one piece of documentation, but what we see are very close links between Common Purpose and Demos, which is, in my view...
a think tank, isn't it?
Well, it's a Marxist think tank, in my view.
Yeah.
But we know that Demos is working very closely with Common Purpose. And the bizarre thing at the moment, or the interesting thing, is Demos, which was initially a big policy organisation for Tony Blair, is now helping both the Conservatives and the Lib Dems form policy. That's provable.
I think that's a good point to make, though, about provable, because, you know, obviously Common Purpose is a charity. We wouldn't want to libel anybody on this channel. Yeah. So can you assure us that everything you say that you're sure about, you have proof for?
Well, we have a simple rule, and that is if we're talking about something factually, it's because we've got the documentation, or the phone calls, or the tapes to back it up.
Okay.
And a lot of the information has now been out in the public domain in written form for well over a year. So I am not producing anything new at the moment. I'm based on facts. And again, I say if you go to the website, you can call up the real documents yourself. If I'm not sure of something, I'll say I believe it is the case.
OK, now the person who started Common Purpose, I understand, is a woman called Julia Middleton. That's correct, isn't it?
Well, that's the correct lady, and she says she started it.
So if she's watching and she'd like to text in, I'd be very happy to read out your text, assuming that I can believe it's you texting. So there you go. Well,
that'd be very interesting. I hope she does.
Well, I hope she does too.
Yeah.
So, Common Purpose, they seem to be everywhere. Public money appears to be used to pay for people to go on their courses.
Overwhelmingly public money, not always, because some private companies will pay for the full price for courses, but overwhelmingly Common Purpose exists on public money.
And I understand some people get the course for free.
Some would get it for free, or peanuts, yeah.
OK. So what's their aim? What are they trying to do?
Well, if you go by their own material, they are trying to create future leaders. It's just when you ask what sort of leader they're talking about, it all becomes a bit nebulous and woolly. But it's quite clear from their documentation that it is elitist. If you look at the people who are pulled in at high level, you're taking people at the highest level amongst European bankers and senior European policy makers. So you're not dealing with people down at a carpenter level. What I believe they are doing, and I believe the evidence is there to show it, is they call themselves a charity, but their whole preoccupation is political. So if you look at the meetings that are set up, who they're mixing with, Demos, Downing Street, the European Union, the whole thing is political. And of course, in theory, a charity can't be political.
And, you know, you mentioned that they stopped your activity, which was helping young people.
I believe they stopped my activity.
Excuse me, you believe they stopped your activity. Does that mean that do you think that their agenda is to disrupt society so that they can, in some way, assume power?
I'd put it another way. What they're actually doing is reframing people to follow their set of values. So people are doing the common purpose course and they're getting a set of values given to them. I can talk about that a little bit more. And that set of values means that you are going to work with other common purpose people outside your authority. Now, this is a key expression which Julia Middleton loves, and she's written a book on it.